Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be going over another one of the unique items, and this is the Word of Hakan. Now, Word of Hakan is designed around a very specific item, or skill. It is designed around Rain of Arrows. And it's really just a Rain of Arrows item. I have covered this previously, and the reason why I'm making a new video is because, well, there's a new version, the 1.20 version, which has been changed from the 1. I think it's like 1.4 version or whatever. They definitely did modify it quite a bit, though, so let's talk about it. Word of Hakan is an interesting amulet that applies crazy Rain of Arrows imbuements that basically just gives you all the Rain of Arrows imbuements at the same time. Let's go ahead and upgrade it real quick so you can see the full effectiveness of it. I like to do this for the video so that you guys can actually see what it looks like fully upgraded. Now this is an amulet, and all amulets now give all resistances, even more all resistances I think than they did before, which was 28.5%. It does go up depending on the item level, or down depending on the item level, so the amount of resistances that you get will vary depending on the power level of your Word of Hakan. It also gives you 24.8% movement speed, which varies between 15.8 and 26.2%. It's always nice to get the movement speed on the amulet. 92.3% ultimate skill damage, which varies from 63% to 94.5%. We also get 25.1% Rain of Arrows cooldown reduction, which varies from 20.2 to 29.8%. This was one of the changes they made, as they changed it from raw cooldown reduction to a more specific Rain of Arrows cooldown reduction, and then they increased the cooldown reduction pretty massively. We also have +3 ranks to all imbuement skills, which is very nice because this is specifically for the imbuements. And then the main effect that Rain of Arrows, Word of Hakan has, is that it gives your Rain of Arrows the imbuements of all your imbuements at one time, which is kind of massive. And can actually have some pretty devastating effects on the monsters. This particular item also has some flavor text of, "Let the great gates of Chaldean be sealed. Let its proud walls stand fiercely defended. The rest of Kyrgyzstan may suffer this plague, but my city and my people will not." Proclamation of Hakan II. Now, if you take this out into the wilds and you actually play around with it, you will find out that what it does is it basically gives your Rain of Arrows access to all of your imbuements at the same time without actually having to imbue Rain of Arrows. And depending on how you have your character set up, it can absolutely demolish the monsters in front of you. Now, the reason for this is because there is a lot of effects that have to do with, well, like if the monster is hit by this effect, then you get this effect. If the monster is hit by this effect, you get this effect, and so forth and so on. And it's kind of crazy because things like Icy Alchemist Loop, there are a lot of different items or aspects within the game that have to do with stuff like this. So if I read this off to you, basically what this says is damaging a chilled or frozen enemy with a shadow-imbued skill has a 75% chance to release an explosion, right? There's also one where if you damage an enemy who is chilled with a poison effect, there's one where if you damage a poisoned enemy with a shadow damage, there's like 3 or 4 of these that go back and forth between, like, if the monster is poisoned and you hit them with this, or if the monster is chilled and you hit them with this, or if the monster is shadow damaged and you hit them with this, then you get this effect or that effect or an explosion or some type of thing going on, right? And there's so many of them that if you were to combine them all together with the Word of Hakan, because it is literally firing all 3 imbuements at the same time, and you would have the ability to hit the target with all 3 imbuements at the same time, which means that you're going to get all 3 of the effects at the same time. And it's going to be absolutely nuts in what it does to the monsters. They're going to explode. They're going to shoot poison out of their anus. They're going to literally just pop like freaking cherries. As you can see, the amount of damage that it does is kind of insane. And the only real problem with it is that it does, of course, take up your amulet slot, which is one of your better slots for aspects. So you have to ask yourself, do you specifically want to take up the amulet slot for this purpose? Are you actually going to be using Rain of Arrows specifically? Maybe you're not using Rain of Arrows. Maybe you're going to use something else. Maybe you want to use a Shadow Clone. Maybe you want to use You know, like the death trap. Maybe you don't want to use an ultimate at all. In that case, you would be better off utilizing a rare amulet with some good effects on it. This way, you can get more damage out of your character. But it definitely is a well-crafted amulet. If you're going to be using Rain of Arrows, it's freaking sick. If you're going to be using imbuements, which you probably would if you're going to be using this amulet, then it's +3 imbuements is very nice. Also, the extreme cooldown of Rain of Arrows makes Rain of Arrows a little bit more useful. Now, the main issue with this particular amulet is actually not with this amulet. It's actually with the skill itself. The skill itself has this kind of weird, like, stopping motion. Oh man! Before it actually is used, you know, you gotta like, she's gotta like, like, and it takes so long for her to use Rain of Arrows. Sometimes that the stop, the delay before activation can get you killed, and it has gotten me killed on many occasions. The delay before activation, and it's really unfortunate because I do like the ability, and I do like the fact that I can imbue it, and I do like the damage that it does. But I don't like the fact that it gets me killed. And that is, unfortunately, a very strong negative, in my opinion. Overall, though, I think the amulet is a very well-crafted amulet, and it's perfect for any character that wants to utilize Rain of Arrows, because it's going to give you massive additional damage with Rain of Arrows. You're going to get that really nice chilling effect, freezing effects from the cold imbuement. It's going to poison everything. It's going to do the shadow damage. The shadow damage explodes and things when the monster dies, which means that you get very nice single target, and you get very nice AoE damage. And, of course, the skill itself is AoE damage, so also very nice. The other things that are very cool about this season is there's items like Anticipation and the Vampiric Powers that can allow you to have a lower cooldown, so 20% reduced ultimate cooldown. And then you also get increased ultimate damage against the monsters as well, which is very nice. You can also utilize something like the Hectic Power to reduce the cooldown of the Rain of Arrows this season even further, which is very nice. I like that a lot. Overall, I'm actually really pleasantly surprised with Word of Hakan. It's definitely a very nice, unique item. And I don't think the changes that they made are necessarily bad, because whenever you're using Rain of Arrows, you definitely want the Rain of Arrows cooldown to be reduced as much as possible. And so changing it from generic cooldown to more specific cooldown reduction, and it specifically affect the skill that it's trying to buff up, is, I think, a good thing overall. Although I don't necessarily like the fact that it doesn't affect the imbuements anymore. But with Word of Hakan, you don't actually have to use the imbuements on Rain of Arrows to give it the effect. So, anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we're just talking about the Word of Hakan. And this is the 1.20 version, so for those of you who are interested in version numbers, this is 1.20. As always, thanks for watching, and keep watching.